Okay, so we are currently live on YouTube. It's setting up now.
Okay. All right.
Okay, well, we're
Ready to go? All right. All right, I'll call to order. I, Mary McVeigh, call the September 15th, 2021 Franklin Township Board of Supervisors meeting to order at 7 p.m. Also in attendance via Zoom are Vice Chair Dave Gerstenhaber, Supervisors Morris, Auerbach, and Day. Also in attendance are Solicitor Mark Thompson. Is he on, Dave? I can't
Mark
see
just
it.
joined.
Okay. Secretary Mary Opromola, are you there?
Yes, she's on.
She's on, okay. And I have a total of 5 members of the public.
That seems about right.
Okay. All right, first we'll do our Pledge of Allegiance. All right. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation,
under God,
indivisible,
Join the meeting.
with
liberty and
liberty
justice
and justice for all.
All right, thank you, everyone. The next item is public comment. This public comment is for anything relating to items on tonight's agenda. The last public comment is for items not on tonight's agenda. It's important to state your name clearly for the record so that your comments can be reflected accurately. And please state whether you're a township resident or a township taxpayer. If you're using YouTube, you must type in your name and address before your comment will be recognized. If you do not identify yourself, your comments will not be reflected in the minutes. Before I open it up to public comment, I'd like to make one statement of an agenda item. Under business, the newsletter discussion. We're going to table that. The original idea was to put information out there of people that are running for the 2 open Board of Supervisor positions, because some residents have been calling the office. But there was a feeling that it may be construed as being political, and we certainly can't spend taxpayers' money on political. So we're going to table that and not talk about it. And I guess if any of the candidates want to do a little write-up about themselves and why they're running, we have that nice enclosed, I'll call it a bulletin board that Scout made for us as you enter into the parking lot. You could always type up what you want and give it to Melissa, and we'll get it in there for you. Residents could look there. So are there any, after saying that, are there anyone who wants to make a public comment? All right. Well, I'm not hearing anything, so I'll move on. I have one announcement. There was an executive session held on Friday, September 3rd, 2021, to discuss personnel. All right, it's all yours, Donna.
All right, thanks, Mary. So I'm going to go with the motion, the approval of the August 2021 minutes. So I motion for the board to approve version 1 of the Board of Supervisors meeting minutes held on August 18th, 2021. Can I have a second for that, please?
I'll second it.
All right, thanks, John. Any discussion?
Yes, this is Nancy. I am not going to vote for it because I don't think it reflects PSAT's recommendation for what minutes should look like.
Any other comments? All right, then I'll open it for a vote. All in favor, say aye.
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 So I hear 2. All against, say nay.
Nay.
I'm sorry.
I think you got 3 to 2,
passes
Donna.
3-2, Donna.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you, Dave. Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
All right, back to you, Dave.
Okay. My favorite thing to do, which is the reports and writing all the number. Before I move on to that, this would be a good point. We have a agenda item at the very end of this meeting where Sheila Fleming is going to speak about our vision partnership. Sheila, if you're amenable, we'd like to move that up to after our local fire department comes and speaks. If just so you don't have to wait until the very, very end of the meeting to talk about that.
Yes, that would be fine. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, thanks. So let me get to the reports. So I make a motion that the board approve the August 2021 Treasurer's Report, which includes the following disbursements: the general fund with disbursements and transfers of $121,566.84, the Park and Recreation Fund with disbursements of $10,744.50, the Open Space Fund with disbursements of $6,098.75, the Capital Reserve Fund with disbursements of $26,744 and no cents, the Emergency Service Fund, $596, the Fire Hydrant Fund with disbursements of $580.80, leaving a balance in all funds totaling $1,809,129.40. Can I have a second?
I'll second that, David.
Okay, hold on. David Gerstenmaier.
All right, and so I'm adding some more
Donna
people
G.
here.
That's the one I'm up against.
All right, so can we, if you're on the line, just make sure that your
You're muted.
your phone is muted, please.
Dave, I think you have the ability to
have
mute the lines.
any discussion on the reports?
I'm trying to.
Okay,
We can hear you, Dawn.
I can mute people. No discussion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed, say nay. Motion carries 5-0.
I think I'm next.
You are next.
Okay, zoning officer report. In the month of August 2021, 10 permits were issued, $9,285.13 in building fees, $4,850 in miscellaneous fees, and $18,331.80 in recreation, open space, impact fees were collected. 9 inspections were performed. The bamboo zoning issue on 116 Peacedale Road is closed. 409 Chesterville Road, burning trash with noxious fumes. These are the open issues. 15 Kimberlot Lane, storage issues. Pennock Bridge Road, debris from driveway. Courtesy letter was sent on that. No motion required.
Okay. Thank you. I guess we're moving on to John, Planning Commission.
Planning Commission held a meeting on September 2nd, 2021. Planning Commission member will provide an update. Any Planning Commission member online?
I don't have the meeting minutes for the Planning Commission here. I was not at that meeting.
Neither was I, so I can't really comment on it.
I believe the meeting was actually canceled.
Yeah, so that's probably why we weren't at the meeting, John. So, all right. So we do not have a report.
Okay, next item is the Harbin Historic Commission did not hold a meeting September 7th, 2021.
Yes, we did actually. Something got inverted in the agenda. Yes, the Harbin Historical Commission did meet on September 7th. We had 2 main topics on the agenda. The first was a review of some inconsistencies and ambiguities in the historic district ordinance. We reviewed that ordinance with Bob Riddle, who's the township's building inspector and zoning officer, and discussed possible changes. We will look at this again at our next meeting, and if we have an agreement on suggested changes, we will forward those suggestions to the supervisors at that time. These are, generally speaking, minor inconsistencies in the wording, but they create ambiguities in the ordinance. We also talked about the Churchill Cemetery. Initial online research on the burials is wrapping up, and that is shifting to a stage where the information is being compiled and integrated. We are moving forward on contacts with local churches and others who have worked to restore African-American cemeteries. We also discussed finding a way to honor the Civil War veterans buried there. And in the process of the discussion, we realized that we were in fact not aware of any memorial in the township to veterans either from or buried in Franklin Township. To be honest, I'm not 100% sure that this is correct, but I just want to mention that. Finally, we talked about some upcoming talks. The Chester County Historic Preservation Network is beginning its virtual fall series with a talk on women at Warwick Furnace, which will actually be tomorrow night at 5 p.m. These talks can be accessed by going to cchpn.org, the index page, and then of the events. And as the talks occur, the Chester County Historic Preservation Network has made these talks available under their education section. So people can also access previous talks if they're at all interested. And there's some very good ones. I would suggest they go and browse them. The Chester County History Center and the Chester County Archives is doing a series of genealogy workshops for people interested in genealogy. The series entitled Back to the Basics. All workshops are virtual and run from 10 a.m. to 11:30 p.m. on Saturdays. They started on September 11th and they will end on October 2nd. Unlike the item I mentioned previously, there's a $15 fee for each of these workshops. And Oxford Area Historical Association is restarting its talks. Its first one is tonight, actually, right now. That John Bradley is talking on the Dickey family, but Oxford makes available recorded versions of its talks, which can be found through the oxfordhistorical.org website. And we canceled our in-person September talk that was jointly sponsored with the London Area Historical Society. New London did not want to go forward with that. We are waiting until mid-October to decide whether to hold our November tour. And that's it. Thank you. Are there any questions? Okay.
All right, thank you, Paul. I have here that the Park, Recreation, and Open Space Pro Committee did not hold a meeting on September 1st, 2021. But Greg Sachs, you are on the line. Maybe you could give us any comments on the Pro Committee?
Yeah, hello, everyone.
Okay, did you hold a meeting?
No, we did not hold a meeting,
Okay.
but just a couple updates. One regarding, well, both regarding the Healing Gardens. We were informed by the nursery, the plant nursery, where we're getting the plants that that they were not able to split up our order. Originally, the plan was to do half the planting this fall and then another half in the spring, and they are unwilling to do it that way. So we are going to basically push the planting back till spring, where we can get it all done at once through red tail restoration and volunteers. We are still moving forward with the other work at the garden in regarding to getting the weeding done, which the FSA has been very helpful, and they've continued on weeding on both halves of the garden. And we are still trying to move forward with the other stonework and other stuff that needs to get done before the planting. So we're shooting for getting all that done before spring, and then we'll be ready to go for the full plant order to get that installed.
Right, Jim German.
Hey, Jim.
Just an FYI, the FSA has finished over there at the Healing Garden, weeding it completely across. There's like 3 pieces of timber that still need to be set within the pathway, the little small circles, and then the project will be done over there ready for planting.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, I was hoping to get over there today. I just didn't get a chance to, but I appreciate that. And that's all I had for now.
So I would just want to thank the FSA. That's fantastic. That the garden's been an eyesore for a while, and I'm glad the PRO and the FSA are working so well together to get that ready for the spring. So that's really good. Congratulations to both groups.
Pretty overgrown.
Yeah, it was getting wild.
All right. I had a comment related to the tennis court. I had received several reports that the new surfacing is peeling up in some areas. I know I talked to Jeff about it and he's not online, but just wonder if anybody had any information that would relate to that particular problem.
I haven't heard anything on this. First time I've heard anything. I'll
Yeah,
go over there and take a peek too.
I did see something on it, and I think Jeff was planning to reach out to the company and have them address it.
Jeff sent us an email saying that it bubbled up.
Yeah.
And he contracted the contractor. But I don't know the results of that meeting. We'll have to wait till Jeff gets back.
I do recall that there was some conversation in the office about that bubbling up, Mary. It was after a storm. And they when Jeff called them, they had indicated that it was a common occurrence with rains, but then it would go back down and that it should be fine. And he did check it later and it did, but I don't know if this is a different peel. So I'm not sure, John, there was some other.
There are 2 reports. There was one report almost a day after they put it down related to some bubbling up. And then sometime later, I got a call from a resident indicating that it was currently having some issues. So I know
that right after a rain?
No, I don't remember that. It was after a storm, but Jeff's aware of both of them. I just wanted to see whether anybody had anything to add to it.
Yeah, I mean, peeling's not the same as bubbling up. So it sounds, if the word was peeling, we have 2 different issues going on. So we'll check back with Jeff when he gets back from vacation.
Yeah, I'll try to get over there too and take a peek at it.
Okay.
I can say, during the financial reporting, the pro committee paid out $10,000. Looking at what's been done over there and seeing the amount of people that are utilizing the facilities, I think it was definitely money well spent. I mean, they're tearing up the whatchamacallit court. Yeah, I just lost the name of it. The pickleball courts. There's people waiting, and all 3 of the courts, every time I've been over there, have been in use. And the basketball courts don't look too bad either, or the parking lot itself. So.
Jim, the pickleball court people were on a campaign to get from 1 to 3. They were relentless.
Oh yeah, and it's definitely we're heroes to them right now.
That's great. That's wonderful to hear.
So it was huge. And you said I'm usually there Saturday morning early, and that's a little too early for the basketball crew. They're still sleeping in. So,
yeah, when you look at that park, it has just made leaps and bounds this year. It looks great.
Yeah, definitely. Probably a few expenses that were unplanned for, but it's going to pay back immensely, and eliminate major expenses down the line. So,
good. That's good news. All right. All right, I guess.
Before we go on there, Jim, I don't want to put you on the spot, but you wrote up a nice little summary. So hunting season's begun, and so the FSA is going to be out in our preserves. I wonder if you want to say a few words about, remind the people about kind of the safety things that you do, how you post when and where people are hunting, and maybe give folks some dates as to when to expect hunters out in the parks.
Yes, I can do that. If
Thank
this
you.
is my time for the FSA to report.
So when you do, Jim, if you could just pass it on to Melissa, she'll do a public announcement.
Yeah, well, that's a new name for me. So I sent it to Mary earlier, actually.
Mary's fine too. Yep.
So we figured that out earlier today.
Okay.
It's just a new people and I'm not all familiar with. But yes, I can give a report on the FSA. That's not a problem.
Thank you.
And just for anybody on, each year during the hunting season, the FSA does report monthly to the Board of Supervisors, any actions, tasks, service projects performed, and any issues that may have arose throughout the season and the general harvest that's completed. So from a high level, our membership is capped at 35. We do have 35 members. 2 members from last year dropped out. And we were able to pick up 2 more because we do have a waiting list of people who want to join the organization. One of those members was a township resident, and surprisingly, he was the only township resident on the list. And we brought 1 more on, but I still think we have about 10 people on the list wanting to join the association.
Jim, for the people who aren't I agree, township residents should get first dibs. But for the people who aren't, have you considered just like doing a lottery or something? I don't know how you pick.
No, it's usually first come, first serve on the list. So we maintain the list of when, and we actually had reached out to a couple people this year who'd been on the list for 2 or 3 years. And they're like, oh, I'd love to, but my situation's changed. So take me off. So we just moved down the list.
Okay.
But Franklin Township residents are first priority. With the 2 new members, there will be a proficiency shootout. FSA does thank the Board of Supervisors for working with us last month and removing that requirement for existing members for the proficiency suit for this year. Hunting seasons in general, archery starts this Saturday, September 18th, and rolls through November 28th, and then closes, and then opens again December 27th and closes the end of January. Shotgun season opens November 28th, closes December 11th, and opens again after Christmas and closes the end of January for this special regulation area. And as part of it, what the FSA does, and particularly along Franklin Preserve and Crossan Park, we post signs up there notifying the public that hunting season is in effect and that there may be some hunters in the woods throughout the season. And just in general, it's notification. We install a couple signs along the service road all the way down to the lower parking lot. On our billboard we have down there, we post that same information there. We post pictures of the preserve itself and a map layout of it. And additionally, within the woods, has against trees posted safety zone in there, both white and red and or orange, I believe the other color is. They've been out there for years, which dictates where we can hunt within that preserve. So our biggest thing is safety and safety of the people in the park. So we maintain that distance down into the woods away from the actual Crossan Park side of Franklin. And all our members are instructed not to shoot into that zone or out of that zone. So they must be beyond that down into the woods to shoot. All our other preserves where there's a issue where public may be involved, those preserves will be posted also. There's some down in Banishire, and also, and I always forget the one at 841 in Schoolhouse, the name of that preserve.
Goodwin?
Yes, Goodwin. I always forget the name of it.
Yeah.
One of the ones that just can't, it doesn't stick in my head. So they all get get posted with that information up front. I know, and we got to connect with the township, the bulletin board on front of the bathhouses there crossing. We were advised that the one notice in there and map's a few years old. So once we get our signs for this year, we'll get some to the township and get them posted there because it's a keyed lock. So Jeff or somebody will have to put them up there. I know right now we do not have the zones, the parcels posted, just because the person who does our lamination of it was away on vacation. He's home and finished the lamination, and we will have everything posted by this Friday. Moving forward, you said each zone, each particular parcel, Banishire, Franklin, Goodwin, and White Clay, we assign a member of the FSA to be responsible overall, have oversight of those preserves. So if there's any issues, that person would be contacted first and then roll it up through the board members of the hunting of the Franklin Sportsman Association to get resolved if needed, and or move it forward to the Board of Supervisors of the township if it's a major issue that needs to be addressed. So all the preserves right now have been checked. You know, we look for things, illegal hunters in there, dumping, things like that, you know, we're just that extra safety set of eyeballs for the preserves. No harvest report at this time. As Greg Sachs mentioned, the FSA has provided a lot of service for the park this year already, particularly in the healing gardens, in addition to mowing the grass and entranceway around Banishire multiple times throughout the summer. I'm just looking, reading everything here. General mowing of surface, weeding, and again, Crossing Park healing gardens, prepping for planting, weeding, removing the rotten timbers, replacing them, painting of the basketball courts, the backboards and posts, and I believe there was some other, the smaller equipment got a touch up some paint too this year. I think that was, you know, all these services have been provided this year since July. And right now we're sitting on about, 94 hours of service that we've donated to the township, particularly centered around Crossing Park, doing services and projects there. On a side note, I know it doesn't impact the FSA or the township directly, but goose season is in. It came in September 1st and goes until the end of September. So, you know, around the township, in some of the fields, maybe not so much because the corn's up still in a lot, but the ones that do have the corn knocked down, there may be some people out there shooting shotguns at the geese if they're coming in. So the township gets complaint. They hear a lot of shots early in the morning on a Saturday morning or early in the morning during the week. That could be what's going on from just the public in general shooting.
Hey, Jim. Oh, sorry.
Go ahead. That was the end of my report.
All right, thank you. You may have said it, but when you post the active hunting season on the billboards or the bulletin boards in front of at the trailheads, is there a way, or do you have a method where you put something on a hook or let people know that there's a active hunter in the woods at the moment?
Yes, there's at each trailhead there's a map of the preserve, and it's broken out. Each preserve is broken out into particular hunting zones where we only allowed one hunter in there. And on that map, on the bulletin board, is a hook where we tend to hang our tag numbers. Additionally, if there's some hunters in the woods hunting on their vehicles, on the dashboard, we also place a parking placard that identifies the hunter by number, which can be referenced back through the township and the board of the FSA if there's any issues. And additionally, FSA has a website, which there's a link off the township website that the public can go look at. And there's a couple links that they can click on to look at our calendar in the different zones and preserves to see if there are any hunters in the woods at that particular time of day.
Excellent.
And Jim, could you let somebody in the office know? I know Jeff's not here this week or next week about the goose shooting season. If we put it on the website, I know a lot of people are going there to get information. It might just, people know what's going on. It's the month of September, you said?
Yes,
Okay.
yeah, that's going on right now. And some that I don't do, so I don't think much of it, but so,
Okay.
I put a reminder on here that, that shooting could be going around, on and around
Yeah, and then
any
we'll
of the,
know.
any of the fields, around here.
Right.
You'll see hunters out there goose hunting.
Okay. All right. Any more questions for Jim? Well, thank you very much, Jim. Thanks for all your service hours. That's a lot.
Hey, Mary, this is Paul. Could I add something to the pro committee?
Yes, please.
I'm sorry, I didn't coordinate with Greg. We didn't have our meeting this month, but we did have a lot of service hours in the Bamshire Preserve this past month for trail maintenance. August is a heavy month with the growth. And so there was probably 16 hours, I guess. Yeah, 2 people for a couple days in Bamshire, and then another day on the Keene Trail to clear the Keene Trail, just, trimming and mowing. And then after the big storm, a week ago, 2 weeks ago, we had a lot of tree tubes from the Pearson tree planting. He lost maybe half his tubes. They ended up in Bamshire. So I went through the creek and picked up 25 or 30 tubes out of Bamshire to clean up because it's just trash at that point. And then I don't know where the other ones are, maybe in Newark. But then I notified Shane Morgan, and she came out with her crew and replaced the tubes and staked the trees back up because most of the trees survived. They just lay down in the storm, in the flood, and then you can stand them back up and restake them. So that planting has been restaked. So that should come through. And then 2 other things is I've got 2 Boy Scouts, Eagle Scouts contacting me for projects. And Joan had mentioned she would really like the bridge on the Ford farm, the small bridge by Appleton Road, to be replaced. It's not strong enough or wide enough for a mower to go across, so it makes maintaining the trail a little difficult. So I was going to show that as an option for a Boy Scout project. And then there's a private tree planting on a farm on Churchill Road that's not on township property, but I was going to offer that to the Boy Scouts as an Eagle Scout project, but it might help with your stormwater requirements. That's why it might excite you guys. So I don't know, I doubt, I don't know what you guys thought about that, if you would help him with funding or not, but I was going to ask Shane Morgan if she can help him fund the trees if he goes for the tree planting.
So Paul, there's a number of items there. The one that I keyed in on was the bridge.
Yeah.
There's a bunch of timbers. I had a bunch of them.
Yeah.
That I donated to the township, but I held back. I think 5.
Well, I was going to ask you about that. If we could get a couple as the main supports, then he could just buy the plank.
So I've got five timbers sitting on my lawn for that bridge project.
And do you know the length of them? Are they 8 foot or 10 foot?
I think they might be 10.
Well,
I don't know.
I'm going to be showing him the project Friday evening with his scout leader.
Yeah.
And maybe we'll stop by your house and offer him those timbers if he's interested in the project.
Yeah, they're all his. That's why I kept them back. So.
But I just wanted to bring it up to you, the board, if there are any other scout projects that you'd be interested in, because the pro committee was out of ideas, and so I wanted to make sure there was any other projects you all are thinking of. We should offer them up.
So one thing that we've talked about in the past is a lot of the trail maintenance that goes on in Crossin, particularly around that wet area. We had talked about using road millings.
Yes.
Would that be a good project for a Eagle Scout to help with that kind of a, you know,
I don't know
trail
how I could,
refurbishing project?
I don't know how I could make it a scout project. You know, the Eagle Scout project to put the boardwalk down, that got washed away, and it got washed away again last week. So I think that water down there is too powerful for those little boardwalks the scouts put in. We need something more serious, and then moving it uphill away from the water.
Sure.
But I think it's going to be all heavy machinery, Dave, to move those millings down into place, and not much that the scouts can do. But maybe, you know, maybe we
Yeah.
could have them doing.
That was the only thing that came into my head. So
Yeah.
Yeah, as a scoutmaster myself, putting something like that down may not truly qualify, as Paul said, you really need equipment. So
Yeah.
it wouldn't be really geared for a scout project.
Yeah, and then the other one I offered was we need map boards. You know, as the pro committee, we talk about putting up trail map boards. Like the FSA has a small one down at the lower parking lot for their hunting map, but we would like a nice trail map in a few key locations around the park. And so making a little kiosk with a roof on it for the maps might be a good project for
that'd
them.
be a good one. Yeah.
That would be.
I think that's a great idea.
Yeah, he didn't go for that one though.
Right, I work it.
Useful.
That would be appreciative.
That would be useful.
And
Yeah.
Paul, talking about, you know, the destruction of water, people have tried to fix that little bridge in Ford Farm, and they've tried a lot of different things. So I don't know if you have any ideas on that, but.
So I'm not talking about the big crossing down at the lower end by what's that street, Dave, you live on?
Yeah, down at the pipeline cut.
Yeah.
Yeah, that one's too big for a scout project. I'm just talking about a little small bridge. It's right against Appleton Road. That one's,
Yep,
It's right
yep.
near. It's right near the right between the vineyard and the farmhouse.
yeah, like not far from Paul Lagassi's house.
Right.
Yep, that's right.
Yeah, but yeah, the one at the bottom is, yeah, that's too much for a scout thing.
The there's
Pretty dangerous. I can barely get over it riding my bike. It's just a mess, but I don't know.
the culvert ones, the two big tubes. Yeah.
Well, I haven't seen that in a while. You know, I'll take a look while we're there, and maybe we can just add some gravel to.
You know, I should have taken a walk down there after the hurricane.
Yeah.
I'm sure it's washed out.
Yeah, it changed the bank of the middle branch significantly. It was one of the biggest floods we've had since I've lived here. All right, well, that was all. I just wanted to let you know there's a lot of activity going on to maintain the preserves and the parks, and that the Eagle Scouts, if they like these projects, may come before you eventually to present the projects.
I've got a comment on that Ford Farm Bridge. That's been an issue as long as I've been on the board, and we've tried some various repairs there that typically eventually get washed out. It's my opinion we really need an engineered solution.
John, you mean the big bridge down at the bottom end, right?
Yeah, the one in the back there.
Yeah,
that really requires an engineered solution, and probably end up being a major construction project, because anything you put in there, even the smaller storms are beating it up pretty bad. So.
Yeah, it needs something that the water can pass under rather than try to get it to pass through a culvert. It's too restrictive in that case.
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah, that's a good point, John, but I wasn't trying to tackle that one today.
No, I just wanted to make sure the board knew that, a lot of things have been tried there before, and for the most part haven't been very successful. So
that's a good point.
All right. Well, thank you, Paul.
Yep.
Next up is the comprehensive plan. They held a meeting August 24th, 2021. If Kathy Goen or anyone from the comp plan is available, could you give the board an update? Anybody from the comp plan on the meeting?
So it doesn't look like Kathy's on.
No.
But I think as far as where we're going now with the comp plan is we're kind of finalizing the report, right? And
Right, Chester County's writing it up.
That's right. And so again, a reminder to those who are online, these meetings are open to the public. They're also on YouTube for you to review. We should be, I think the plan is wrapping this all up in March, Mary. I think that's
right. It should be,
endpoint, and we'll be done, and we'll have the document, and it'll all be behind us. So, yeah, but I don't have any written report from Kathy on that,
Okay.
so I don't have much to say. Anyone
well,
else?
and anyone who has an interest, as you said, Dave, they can go on the website and listen to the meeting.
Yep.
Have any
Thanks.
questions? All right, then I guess if there's no more comments on that, we'll move on to the business section of the meeting. Donna?
Okay, so I'm going to go with the road program first. It should be quick, and then we'll
Yeah.
turn it over to the fire company, and then I guess Sheila, right? So that's
Right.
the game. All right,
Thank
so
you.
let me talk about the road program. So we had the spreadsheet from Ron Reagan. It's in our books, and it looks like quite a bit of work's been done to prepare the roads, but we haven't really started on the roads. We'll start that I believe later this month, if I'm correct. But a lot of prep work's been done by Jim and his crew. I don't know if there's any other discussion or any comments from any of the board members.
Yeah, I've got a general comment in the fact that the road program's starting so late. Weather becomes quite an issue in delaying these projects. We're starting it probably middle of September, maybe a little later. At some point in the year, PennDOT will prevent you from continuing the road program. It used to end in the end of October, but I think it's typically mid-November. But there's a point that they'll not allow you to continue to pave. So we're in a compressed area here. So this thing's schedule critical in my mind, considering the fact that it started so late. As you noted, the prep work is done, but the main road work, which is really affected by weather, is yet to be started. So it's something to pay attention to for sure.
John, I know, I don't recall the email right now, but we did get an email updating us. Jeff was in touch with Long Paving, who was going to do the paving. If I remember right, it'll take from start to finish about a month for the roads they're going to do. So they're supposed to start, I think, next week.
Yeah.
So looks like maybe mid-October we'll have it done. And I think part of the reason it's later this year is we're going with Long Paving, and that took a while to get all that process done.
You're just compressed up against
right.
A limit at the end of the year that PennDOT imposes, and weather really impacts these things. So you can't put asphalt down when it's wet. So
no. Well, hopefully they'll get it done in 4 to 6 weeks, because then we're into November.
Yeah.
So Mary, I have that email that you talked about
Okay.
that Jeff sent out to us, and it has us starting with Gypsy Hill Road on Tuesday, September 28th, and then work progressing through Hess Mill and more Gypsy Hill. So and then I think we finish up Schoolhouse into October. So we have the plan, like John said. Just hope that we can continue to make it work and we don't get anything crazy happening, so we can get it done by mid-October.
Yeah. Okay. Weather is the factor, right?
On the road program, I've noticed other townships in their meeting minutes share what the results were, who's doing what work and how much it's costing. And I thought that was really good in the sense of transparency and clarity to know. I'm not sure everyone knows, who is doing what work in our community. So it might be something to think about in the future.
Okay. Good idea. It's their money, right, Nancy? Let's tell them how we're spending it. Yeah. And it's a lot. All right. Anyone else have any questions, comments on the road program? All right. Now, do we have Neil Vaughn of the West Grove Fire Company? He's with us. He's going to discuss his 2022 budget request. If you're ready, Neil.
Sure.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. We did have the opportunity to sit down with all of our service municipalities on August 30th to formally present the budget. So I was asked to attend this evening's meeting because there was a couple questions regarding the budget. I mean, I could certainly go over a quick overview if you would like me to, or, I don't know how you want me to proceed. What I was told was I was needed to answer some questions. So I could certainly do whatever you need done.
I think there were some questions about how the pricing worked out. So if you could address those issues, that would help.
Neil, there was another issue that came up after we met on the 30th, in that the 2020 census information became available about that time. And question was, that came from the township manager, is whether you had incorporated the current census information into the budget.
You're correct. So what happened there was when we initially completed the budget, we were using previous census figures because they were not available at that time. We have since revised the budget and included the up-to-date census figures. So that's been updated and resubmitted to the township.
I think that was the fundamental question that I believe was brought up.
Sure, and actually, I have an email from Joan that does ask some questions, so I could go through those real quick. So yeah, there was a question on the census numbers.
Before you start, can I just ask that when you incorporated the new census numbers, did it affect the amounts, or was it pretty much a wash?
It was pretty much a wash for everybody with their growth.
Great, thank you.
Yeah. So Joan did ask the census numbers, how the increases were calculated. Just generally, all of our operating costs are going up, just like everybody else's. So we kind of worked into the most, I guess, the least amount of increase versus, what we needed to do to sustain our, operations. So, we are, very budget conscious. We are kind of looking at everything. So the increase ended up being $250,000 for the fire operations budget. So, and that's after not having increases for the past 2 years. But, so we did finally just get to a point where, as I mentioned, across the board, where, apparatus costs increase about 10% a year. Our personnel cost with insurances and everything like that. I mean, I don't think we could pinpoint one thing that hasn't gone up, really, just with the state of our economy at this point.
I think the concern was how our rate increase was determined versus, say, Penn's. I know Joan talked about Penn's being much lower than ours, even though our real estate appraisal went up much less than Penn's.
So let me just pull that up. I'm sorry.
Sure, no problem.
So your total is about a $179,000 contribution, which is a 3.5% increase. Penn's increase was only 1.4, but Penn is still paying a higher amount. So where that comes in is it's the millage, and then as well as with the EMS, it's a third scenario. So it's a third call volume, a third population, and a third assessed value. So it's just kind of how the numbers played out this year. So we don't apply an increase to a specific municipality. We apply it across the board. So it's just kind of how everything fell within how the increases went. I know that probably doesn't give a good answer, but it's just kind of how the whole funding formula for all of our 7 municipalities works out. So like I said, it's yourselves in Franklin and West Grove were at about a 3% increase. London Grove was a 15% increase. And then Penn and Londonderry were about a 1% to a 2% increase.
Well, Neil, I think what happened is some things within the each township, the three elements of the formula changed.
Correct.
Because the way it's actually calculated, the fire company develops their total costs for the service across the whole group of townships that they serve. And then the formulas using data from each township calculate what percentage of the total cost that each township pays. So the changes occurred down in the basic data that feeds the formula, which is the assessed value, the population, and the number of service runs. So if you looked into that arithmetic, I think that's where you're going to find the reason for the increase.
Correct. That's where the variations occur.
Yeah.
Right.
So
And
is
I
it
don't want
per-
to belabor it, but our population has not increased very much at all. And based on the fact that I think we have like, I don't know, maybe up to 5,000 residents, if that. According to what I read, there have not been nearly a big increase in runs that would explain it. So, and in terms of millage, I can't believe that we're that much more, but you know, like I said, I don't want to belabor it, but I do think it's important going forward that everybody can see the numbers and understand.
Sure. And I submitted the numbers to Joan. And so she has them to forward out.
Yeah, I mean, I think the logic is that the cost to the fire company went up, so that cost has to be shared amongst all the people that that are contributing. So we're all going to see some amount. I mean, it's going to have to go up, right? Because we have to cover the increase. And I guess, Nancy, your question is, why do some people's go up 3%, other people's go up 1%, some people go up?
That's right.
That's kind of my question is like, you know, you think of in my mind, a 3% increase, that's a cost of living increase. That's an inflationary increase. Why does that not get applied across the board evenly? Right. So if you're paying, if you understand what I mean, like why would the cost of living increase for another township be lower than ours? Like, I think I understand one township had a huge increase because they changed over their fire company.
Right.
But, if you have two neighboring townships and you're doing a cost of living increase, why would one be 1% and why one be 3%?
Yeah.
David, I think you need to look at, and that information is probably available, is the formula for each township and how it was calculated. So if you look at those numbers, then I can think you can trace back and find out what the root cause of the change is. But I'm not going to be able to do it in a meeting like this. You need to sit down, look at the spreadsheet.
Yeah.
Make sure that the formula has actually calculated the thing correctly and why it's so much different. I think there's a fair, certainly it's worth looking at the fact that we went up higher than Penn. That would generate some concern for me also. So I think we've got to look at that data, and I think it has been provided to the township. We look at that, those spreadsheets and how the formula calculated the costs out for each township, for each category. I think then you will see it.
Yep.
I mean, the one thing you want to remember too, and this is the one thing about percentages, it all depends what the base is, okay? So what Penn was paying in the first place is a lot more than what we're paying. So a 1% of Penn's number, because it's bigger, can probably be about the same as a 3% of our number, which is.
I get that's a good point. But I guess what I'm saying is that, like, the cost to serve, we might not need to talk about this tonight, but like the overall cost of running something is going to go up the same across the board, right? So like whoever's using the service, that fire truck is going to cost X amount plus the cost of not
the way the formula is, because it's all dependent who has the more calls is going to have the greater cost. So if you have a place like Penn that has a lot of calls, they should actually have be more affected. But like I said, their base is big, so you have to lay, I think you have to
Yeah.
lay all the numbers out.
I
Percentages
get
can-
it. I get that because that's sort of why I'm sort of saying, well, why did Franklin go up more than Penn? Because Penn would certainly gets most of the calls, and maybe it's because Penn has been overpaying based on their calls, because that's what it would be implying, right? Their increase wasn't as big because they're paying too much for their service, and we're not paying enough.
No, I think it has to do with their amount that they pay. So the percent of that. So if your base is 50 versus if your base, and then you take 10% of 50 is 5. If your base is 2, 10% of that is a lot smaller. So I think it has to do with the base. It has to do with what you're taking the percent of. I think that's what's driving a lot of this.
So Neil,
You need to look at the spreadsheet and how each individual component is calculated. One thing that has happened in the last few years is people stopped going to the hospital. They're not using the EMS service the way they used to. Penn was an enormously high user related to call rate. And because of COVID and fears that people have, they're not going. So you need to look at that call rate in Penn and see whether that went down on them. That's possibly an explanation for it. But you got to look at the numbers within the spreadsheet, and that'll give you the answer.
Yeah, that
Neil,
should
do you know the
Penn-
answer to that, Neil? Did
Penn,
Penn?
I don't have the previous year's data, and my apologies there. But as comparison, Penn is the number 2 payee, in the 7 municipalities. They're paying at just close to $297,000 compared to the $179,000. So like I said, the smaller municipalities, I think percentage-wise got the larger increase, but when you spread it apart, of how the ratios go, that's where I think a little bit of the difference is, minus London Grove, whose service model changed altogether.
I am looking at the spreadsheet, and we can probably all look at it, but it does look like has something to do with Penn pays quite a bit more than Franklin or London Britain, which is about our size. They're also looking at a 3.7% increase. So, I mean, if you have a very specific answer, great. But if not, the spreadsheet does share a lot of information.
Yeah, and that's where we back our data up. We plug it into the spreadsheet and certainly calculate it from there. So like I said, I apologize for not being totally prepared with call numbers. I don't know what that fluctuation was off the top of my head.
Well, and Neil, I don't want you to feel we're beating you up. We're just trying to understand.
No, absolutely. Absolutely.
And in real terms, it comes out to be about $6,000 more for the year for our budget, $6,374.
Okay.
Correct.
If you really wanted to see what the trend is, you would probably have to go back 2 or 3 years and set a trend for each of the categories, and that would start to tell you what's happened. That this year could be significantly different than previous years in some categories.
Okay.
Correct. So again, and if you want to see any additional data, certainly, let us know. Let me just pull up that email. I know there was a couple other questions on there. My apologies for looking at different screens. There was a question about the salary and benefits tab that was included. That was a rookie mistake on my part at the night of the meeting. So my apologies there. A question about what travel and training is. That's, the travel and training to send our volunteers and our career staff to different trainings throughout the area. We have the benefit of some national conferences kind of being close by. So we're able to kind of send them there. Volunteer retention, that line item is essentially everything that we could do to keep our members. So that comes out of our stipends. We give our members stipends based off call volumes and activities. It's our, if we do a family party, if we do our Christmas party for the kids, anything we could put towards the members, that is within that budget line item. And then it asked about ALS reimbursement. So what that is through Medicare, you can't bill twice. So we have billing agreements established with Medic 94 and with Longwood with their paramedic service. So we essentially bill for the call, and then we reimburse them for their share of the service provided. So it's an expense out to them. And those were the questions that were included in the email. But certainly if there are any more, I'm happy to try to answer them, hopefully a little bit better than the previous ones.
Well, Neil, my main question is this something we have to vote on tonight, or it's just going to happen?
No, this is what we submit to the township. What the township wants to do with it, is certainly up to you. We can't dictate that. Certainly we would appreciate, the kind of the amount that's asked for. I know most of there are typically questions, and not to put anybody on the spot, but most of the municipalities, they do agree. And then if there was, a municipality that didn't agree, we would probably have to kind of reconvene everybody to kind of talk that out to see, how we could work that shortfall out. So, but it's just our normal budget request, and you would put it in your 2022 budget for approval at that time. And I'm really here just to answer some questions.
Yes, Nancy, we vote on it as part of the budget when the budget discussion comes, but at least we'll understand where the number came from.
Yeah.
And I think one of the things to be clear as we're asking some pointed questions, because this is dollar and cents type stuff, is we're talking about an incredibly well-run fire department. I mean, this is not these aren't people who are wasting money and mismanaging money. Just we're asking some pointed questions just to understand how the money's calculated. But it is absolutely not an indictment or anything on West Grove, because they are a wonderful fire department.
No, and we're looking at $500 a month in round numbers, Nancy. If you're saying, okay,
just about a little over, but
okay,
pretty low, I'd say.
Yeah.
And we're always here to answer questions. I know, everybody's budgets are tight, so we certainly understand that. So anytime I'm certainly not taking it as an inquisition, that's what we're here for. We're here to answer questions and provide the best service possible. So
and we certainly are glad you're there.
Yeah, we sure are. I know I've gotten help from you guys. Yeah. Very good.
All right.
So if there aren't any other questions for Neil, thank you again, Neil, for coming in. That was very informative. We're moving the agenda around quite a bit. We have Sheila Fleming from the Vision Partnership Program. Last month, we had the conversation with her about a proposal that's being put forth. She's just returning to this meeting to kind of talk about the path forward. The major issue from last month that the board had a question on, because we were in general in favor of this program, but we had a question about this additional fee that we were going to be asked to pay. It sounds like that was waived. We're not going to need to do that. So without further ado, Sheila, can you kind of give us a quick update on where we're at and what you're asking the board to do this week?
Sure, thank you. So as you said, I was here to see you all last month with Jim Martin, representing London Britton Township, and we met on your front porch on our cell phones, as you recall. And we introduced this project, which we are calling the Mason-Dixon Arc Corner Heritage Interpretation and Connectivity Plan. And I work for Brandywine Conservancy, and so I'm working with London Britton Township to help them prepare a Vision Partnership Program grant proposal to help fund the study. And they're looking for 3 partners, including Franklin, Elk, and New Garden Township. And I sent to David a few days ago the where we're at with the proposal, and so it's pretty well fleshed out now in terms of what the tasks are, what the deliverables will be, and the timeline. And I also sent along a sample letter of commitment that London Britton Township is requesting from each of the partners on the project, so including Franklin Township. And the purpose of the letter is to state Franklin Township's intention to support London Britton on this study, and to appoint one member of the Planning Commission and one member of the board to serve on an advisory committee or a project committee. And it also states that Franklin Township would be committed to the $5,000 contribution towards the cost of the project. So the total project cost is $64,000. The request to the Vision Partnership Program will be for $44,000. And the balance of $20,000 will come from $5,000 from each of the 4 partnering municipalities. So London Britton, Franklin, Elk, and New Garden, the idea is would each contribute $5,000 towards this project. That is the only payment that London Britton is going to request of the partners. I think earlier on we had talked about some kind of a float where each part, so that London Britton Township didn't have to bear the burden of the cost of paying the consultants itself up front. They would ask for a $16,000 float from each of the partners, and then the partners would get refunded $11,000 or so. Well, that's not happening. It's much simpler now. London Britton Township is prepared to front all of that float on their own. And so they're simply requesting a $5,000 contribution from each of the partners. So this project, the grant is due on September 24th. It's a week from Friday. And we should have an indication from the county whether or not the grant is awarded by October. And if all goes well, and once the contracts are signed and the commissioners sign off on it, it's likely that this project would probably start in January, February, or March of next year, early next year. So it's a project that would be, you would want to include in your budget planning for 2022. And the project would wrap up in 12 months. So it's a fairly swift project, but that's a very quick overview. So today I'm hoping to have a discussion on whether or not Franklin is interested in joining the partnership and being a partner on the project, but also specifically looking for a signed letter of support from Franklin Township committing to being a partner and committing to that $5,000 contribution.
Sheila, can you remind us what exactly what's deliverable? I know we talked about it before, but I was just hoping you could remind us, what does the $64,000 cost deliver?
Yes, so this is a study to look at the history and the culture and the heritage with regards to the history surrounding the Mason-Dixon line. And it's also a study to look at where candidate heritage centers should be located, as well as interpretive sites, so that for people coming to visit this area, say from across the line down, in Maryland or Delaware, that there would be a network of interpretive facilities that people could go and learn more about the 4 municipalities that are aligned along the Mason-Dixon line. And another significant component of this study would be an examination of existing and planned trails. And it would be looking at how this heritage interpretation network would be linked together by public trails and for walking, biking, or perhaps other modes. So it's kind of a two components to this plan: the heritage interpretation and identifying heritage interpretation opportunities, and also connectivity between those sites.
So does it deliver a map? Is that what it would deliver? A map that says this is where a site should be?
Yes.
These are the trail.
Yes.
Okay,
so it would deliver a written report. There would be a series of maps that would identify where these heritage centers and interpretive sites are. It would also discuss interpretive themes that would occur possibly in clusters or at different sites. So it's a pretty deep dive into, you know, telling the story of the Mason-Dixon line and the municipalities along that border. And what the municipalities would do with this then is they could use this report as a tool to apply for funding to implement projects that are high priorities in your township. So it will really become a tool for seeking additional funding either through Chester County or DCNR or DCED or other, you know, possibly historic interpretation sources of funding.
Quick question. How have you done with the other townships? What kind of response have you gotten?
Well, I just received a letter from London, Britain on Monday, and I believe Elk Township met last night. I have not heard back from them. And New Garden, the letter is in the pipeline. And so we're doing pretty well. I think we'll get all 4 partners. Well, assuming Franklin is on board, we'll have 4 partners.
My view is if the other partners do go on board, I think Franklin should as well. I think it's a community effort, and I believe Franklin has a good community spirit. And so my view is yes.
So last month we agreed in principle, and the major issue was this float we wanted to talk about. Obviously, I think we need a motion for us to actually say, okay, we're going to do this, because this is basically the decision point, right? Once we send this letter in, we're saying we're going to spend $5,000 to get this project rolling. So I'm in support of this. I think that this is a really interesting project. We have surrounding townships here that are all in support, and we're kind of the keystone township in a way. We're in the middle of all of them. And so I think this is kind of ties in with everything that we're doing with the comp plan and the trail building that we're doing there. So I think this would be something that's worthwhile to support.
I agree with you, Dave, that it is something we should support. Do we need a motion now, or it seems like what's being asked of us tonight is a letter saying we support it, and we're all in. Maybe the motion is down the road. I'm not sure.
So I don't know if it's because it'll be added to the budget, and you can pay it out of our pro fund, or right. So there's different places where we have how we can spend the money, right? So it doesn't have to be on top of what we're already spending. So when we do the budget discussion, we can say, well, this is an important part of the our parks and recreation, our parks and open space. We can take the money from there, or so I don't know if we need the motion to again. I guess the answer is I'm not really sure what we're doing. If we need a motion to sign this document to say
I
what's the procedure? Do we need to make a motion to sign this thing?
Yeah. Dave, I think what we need is to commit to sending a letter that we support this. And maybe we can do a motion at another meeting, because it's not going to start till around January. So I don't know how the rest of you feel, but I'm definitely in support of it and willing to send a letter that we support it. Can we vote on that tonight?
I think it would be.
I'd like to make a comment. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Mark. I want to make a comment.
No, I was just suggesting that if you wanted to send a letter, then I would suggest a motion to support the project, and then you can add the funding to the budget discussion. I guess that wouldn't be GR.
Thanks, Mark.
Thanks, Mark.
All right. So I just want to make my comment. So, David, I think you made some really good points about how we pay for it, and I think on its own, I see the merits of this project, but I also know how important open space and easements are to the group. And I just want you to know, I'm struggling, not because I don't think this is a good project, but because I'm trying to understand, we can't always have everything, and we need to be prepared for if another easement project comes our way, or if there's some other project that comes from some of the same budgets, right?
Well, or we can create a line item for this that's separate from the pro budget.
Yeah.
I mean,
It can easily come from the
That
general
has to
fund.
come from somewhere, so
Yeah,
the money
that's
has
right.
to come from somewhere.
I mean,
So
look,
I
last year
I just know that everything's a choice, right? It doesn't mean it's a bad thing or not a worthwhile thing, but sometimes you have to make choices among things that are all worthwhile. I think the fact that we don't need to float 20-some K up front is a real plus, because that would have been even harder to think about how it is. But I just, the board has the 3 votes, so we're going to do the letter. But I'm just want you to know I am struggling it in terms of our priorities and making sure that when we think about our budget and what we're going to do, that we do think about those things that are most important to us. And I think there is that easement discussion we've had in the past.
Sure.
I think that's
but I also
smart,
think when you
sorry,
think
Dave, let me just mention that. So we have quite a big budget, and I think we're very capable of saving costs here and there that won't hurt the community a bit. Whereas I know this would really help the community. So to me, it's our job to make, decisions around where money maybe is being not spent as efficiently right now as we would like. And I think we can easily find that difference.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think when you look at, I think what a lot of times what happens is we look at this and say, well, it's $5,000. Do I really want to spend it on a historical heritage project? When we don't have similar conversations when we'll spend $5,000 on something for the office.
Yep.
Right. We don't struggle with where the money comes from for something, say something for the office or something that's not necessarily, that's something that isn't necessarily controversial. So for example, we didn't struggle to find $6,000 for a consultant. We didn't hem and haw over that $6,000 and struggle about where our priorities were. We said, okay, we're going to go hire a consultant to look at our office space. It wasn't like, well, what aren't we going to do this year? We got the money and spent it. And I think it's because this is a historical heritage project. That's what is actually the struggle. It's not the $5,000.
No, not for me. So I think we did struggle. Not struggle is the wrong word, but we did talk about the consultant and what the consultant would bring. And the idea was that we were going to identify efficiencies, so there would be a benefit. Not to say this doesn't have a benefit. I'm just trying to think. And even stuff for the office. I mean, if you look at our office, it's not like we have a premier office with beautiful furniture and beautiful facilities. It's pretty, if we're buying something for the office, it's because we need a printer or we need something that's pretty basic.
Or decent chairs to sit on. Yeah.
Like a lot
Should
of
we vote or?
Well, Mark said we should have a resolution. Correct, Mark?
Yeah, we need to have a resolution.
All right, Dave, since you started it, do you want to propose the resolution?
Before you started, I want to make sure that the resolution has a contingency that all partners participate, or otherwise we're out of it. So I think that contingency needs to be built into the motion if we do that.
So I'm just confused a little bit here. Is it a motion or a resolution?
No, it's got to be. I think it's got to be a motion.
Motion.
Otherwise, you can't put it in a budget.
Right. It's a motion, Mary.
Thank you.
Okay.
Good luck.
So let's try this. On the fly, I make a motion that the board sign the Mason-Dixon Arc Corner Heritage Interpretation and Connectivity Plan Letter of Commitment, supporting the $5,000 contribution for the plan, contingent on neighboring townships' participation in the plan.
Yep, I second that.
Okay, thank you, Nancy. Any further discussion? No. Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Okay. Motion carries 5-0. Okay, so I have a copy of the letter here, Sheila, and I think our township secretary already has a copy as well. So we'll print it out, sign it, and send it off to you by Friday, I think is when you said you wanted it. So, and I
That
think
would
you just
be-
needed two of us, right? You just needed two of us to sign it. You didn't need the whole board, just the chair and the vice chair, and you'd be
Yes,
good. Okay.
yes, that would be good.
All right. Well, thank
Wonderful.
you very much.
Thanks,
Thank you,
Sheila.
Sheila.
Thank
you,
you.
Sheila.
Thank
Thanks very
you.
much. All right.
All right.
But now we're on to the Croson Park, Dave.
Yeah.
Uh,
So I can just hand it over to you to talk about the Crossland Park activities discussion.
Okay. As most people are aware, we're trying to start some activities in the park. The first one will be movie night. And Jeff has worked very hard in setting this up. There's information on our website, if you need my book. Plenty of information on our website about movie night. The other items we were trying to get going in the park is we wanted to do something for Halloween, something called trunk or treat. Basically, people come over with their car, open the trunk, decorate it. Maybe they get dressed, and it's a nice way for the children to trick or treat during the day when they're safe. Halloween's on a Sunday. We're trying to do it on Saturday at the park. And when Jeff gets back from vacation, I know he has it on the website. He hasn't had a lot of activity, but maybe him and I can sort of go around to local businesses and the school and promote this a little bit more. The only other activity that we're looking at, and this is a big one, it's next spring, First Responders Day. And it's going to involve hopefully the fire company, all the services we get, plus the state police. And the state police are very enthusiastic about this. And hopefully we're going to have their helicopter and who knows what there. I think it'll be a huge success. And I think they said the kids will like it. I said, no, the big kids will like it more. But yeah. So that's what we're working on at Croson Park. And hopefully if these activities are, we see a lot of participation in them. Like Pico has said it, they gave us money for this movie night, which is going to cover the cost of the movie, ice cream we're going to give out, and some popcorn. Couldn't be better. And they said, if you get a good turnout and you put a sign up that we, sponsored this, come back to us next year. So that's why we need to promote these activities. And Jeff does have a lot of great ideas, maybe for ads before the movie, to raise money to keep a little kitty going for future activities. And if anyone has an idea, something they'd like to do in the park, by all means, at least submit it to the office and we can start working on it. I know Penn Township has done a lot of this. They even give out discounts in the winter to maybe ski resorts. And then in the better weather to like Six Flags and things like that. Melissa has agreed to look into that, how they do that. And, you buy your tickets through your township, and I don't know what the formula is, but that's a nice service for our residents. So things like that is the way we're trying to go. And we're working with, of course, the pro committee. It's their baby, but just to update you what's going on. But I really do want to mention that we had a meeting, a brief meeting at the park with the state police and Dave and I and Greg Sachs, and I don't know who else was there, but state police are very, very supportive of this. They love our park, and they said this is really good community activity, and they're behind us 100%. So that's really great to know. And it's just going to be fun for our residents, I think. So.
I think it's great. And in terms of, connecting with the community, until you meet some people who are state police and emergency people, it's just some vague group. And it's really nice to form a connection with them.
Oh, and I would like to mention, out of this meeting at the park about, fun activities, I'm going to call them, we have decided to put in our newsletter a Trooper Kochka Corner. And he is the public relations trooper at the barracks in Avondale. And he wrote up a little blurb, and we're going to put it in every other newsletter. And they want to take the idea to other townships. And it's a way for them to connect with their community, the community they serve, and us residents to know them. And it's the best thing for policing, because as we all know, there's a lot of negativity around policing in our country right now. This is a positive part of it, and we want to highlight that. So yeah, so okay, let me know what you think when we put Trooper Kochka's Corner, I think all with K's. So I'll be interested to hear your feedback. It was going to be KKK, and I said, oh no, you cannot do that. so yeah, I think it's a good thing.
And I was really, pleased with the level of enthusiasm that they had, for these like first responder days and being able to kind of contribute to the community in this way. I mean, it wasn't like we had to twist their arm at all. They were very much like, yes, we want to do this. We want to be involved in your newsletter and get information out. So yeah, I think I think this has been great.
Well, Dave, I think we kind of stuck our neck out a bit as a township. I don't know if you agree with me. And I think they've been looking for this. They need that connection with the people that they serve. And we said, here's what we want to do. And they just jumped on it. It was really very encouraging, I think. Okay. Any other comments on the park or discussion on it? Okay, if not, Nancy, would you take up the next item?
Yes, and I'm flying blind because I'm using last week's agenda, but this is about township manager treasurer role. Is that what I'm talking about?
Yes, it is.
You should have a motion in front of you.
I do. I just want to make sure that I'm using the most current summary.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Okay, so township manager / treasurer role. I make a motion to consider a township manager and treasurer change, seconded by.
I'll second that.
Pick one there.
Whatever.
Okay. Mary.
Okay.
All right. Discussion.
I would suggest, Nancy, that the motion be amended to add the language to terminate the relationship with the existing township manager.
Okay.
If you want to change township managers, that would be my suggestion.
Okay. So let me try that again. I make a motion to terminate the current township manager
And consider a township manager.
and consider the current township manager and current treasurer.
Correct.
And consider a change. Does that sound better?
Yes.
Okay.
And I'll second that, Nancy.
Okay. And now discussion.
I don't know what should we discuss? I mean, do we need to have a discussion other than where we've decided to make a
We're going
change?
to vote. We're going to vote.
There's no need to have a discussion if the board doesn't want to. You can move straight to a call to vote.
Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Motion carries 5-0.
Okay.
Okay, and I have a second motion. I make a motion to appoint Assistant Township Manager Jeffrey Eastburn as acting township manager. Seconded by.
I'll second that.
Thanks, Dave. And is there any discussion?
No.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay. Motion carries 5-0.
All right.
Thank you, Nancy.
Sure.
Next item is the green energy alternative update. Supervisor D will be providing an update to the green energy alternative ordinance. This is the final version. If found to be acceptable, there will be a motion to send this version to the Planning Commission for further review.
I don't know if we need a motion, but we can, let me just give a.
There's already a motion here. I was going to read it and then put it on the table.
Yeah, I don't know. Do we need a motion to send it to the PC? I don't know. John?
There's a motion in the motion sheet, and I would recommend we read it and
Okay,
put it on the table and then have a discussion. We either vote it up or down. I make a motion to send the final version to the Planning Commission for review. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Seconded by Donna. Now we can have a discussion about it.
Okay.
That's
So, yeah, I was just a little confused if we needed a motion, but that's fine. So this has been going back and forth. Joan's been looked at it, and then I can't remember his name. The guy, our LTL or not LTL, but our engineers looked at it. Jeff Eastburn.
Jeff Vogels. Jeff Vogels.
Yeah, Jeff. I'm sorry, my brain's not working. So he's looked at it. I've looked at what Jeff Vogels wrote. So I believe we're in a good place that addresses the board's concerns. We wanted to make it simple for homeowners that want to have green energy, particularly the solar panels. We have a little more restrictions on the large solar panels, but seems to be very much in line with what makes sense, and it's not overbearing, but just puts a little bit more parameters around it, and is in line with what we have for any time you want to build something on your property. So so this isn't the end of it. What I've looked at it, I'm happy with what Jeff has done. So I suggest we send it to the PC and let them take a look at it, not to change it, but to identify, is there anything we missed? And then we would bring it back to the board, and then we could hopefully approve it. So that's the game plan. I don't know if everybody's had a chance to look at it, but it's much shorter than it's been in the past. I think it's easier to understand. We try to, like I said, make it as simple as possible for the homeowner, but we also are concerned about making sure we don't do anything wrong with stormwater management for some of the larger facilities. We make sure that there is some money put aside for the larger facilities so that they can be decommissioned. I think the emphasis is in the right place. So any questions?
Yeah, I think it's an excellent ordinance. I do want to say that the history of it has been very difficult for everybody, including the Planning Commission. They spent hours and hours on it, and then what they normally do is send it to the board to vote, and the board didn't want to vote on it. We didn't agree with it. And so we pretty much took it apart and rebuilt it. Now, it has lots of the Planning Commission's ideas and views, but to me, it would be unfair to the Planning Commission and also inefficient to go back to them. Once again, they already gave us their views and we changed them. So I feel as if, I'm ready to vote on it to implement it. And I think that would be more efficient and more fair.
Yeah, I guess I just see them. They have a lot of experience. I don't want, as I said, have them rewrite it, but I would like them to take. I mean, it is simpler than it was that they looked at it before, and just to identify any gaps, and then we can just take that under, hear what they have to say, take advantage of their expertise, and then we make the final decision. But let's see what everybody else has to say.
Well, Donna, I'm kind of ready to vote on it now, and not really. I don't like the idea of send it back to the Planning Commission. One, I don't think they want it back. And I think what we sent them before was not that complicated. They made it extremely complicated. And Jeff Vogels did all the work they asked him to do, and they basically threw everything out. And that was the first Planning Commission meeting that I attended once I became a supervisor. And I thought, what is happening here? What's going on? This is they asked them to do certain things. They did it, and then they threw it all out. I think what we have on the table right now is good. If it's not perfect, there's no reason why we can't change it. I don't know that I'm not totally opposed to send it back to the Planning Commission, but I don't think we need to. I think we're at a point where we can go ahead and vote. That's my opinion.
Here's where I'm at. We have a different the texture of the Planning Commission is a little different now. We have a new member on there. I would suggest now that they have a clearer picture of what we're looking for, send it back with the guideline that it's one meeting. So, you talk about it for one meeting, send it. Then when you're done reviewing it, make some notes, send it back, and then we can either go with what we already have, or we can implement the changes And this can be done by our, in 30 days by our October meeting. So I think we have a planning commission meeting in a couple weeks.
Well, that
So-
that I could support, Dave, but not
Yeah.
what happened before.
Oh yeah, no, that's why I think they just needed kind of clearer guidelines and they just went off the rails. And so if we can
Yeah.
just say, read it through. If there's anything glaring, let us know. If not, if you're good, then we're good and we can vote on this in October.
Okay.
And-
know,
and
I think,
not to
I
be
think you
a-
make a good point, David,
Sorry,
that
Donna.
it's about
Donna.
one meeting. It's not about, and I should have said that. It's not, my intent was not for them to have meeting after meeting. It's one meeting, one shot.
Yeah.
Anything glaring,
Yeah.
get it back.
Just, I'd like to keep in mind the money we've spent on it already with LTL and with lawyers and everything else. So it's really important. I'm not really comfortable sending it back, but it's certainly important not to use any more consulting dollars to do it.
I agree. Yeah. No, I mean, the planning commission is not gonna, they're not gonna hire LTL to go look at it. It's just.
They have in the past. We've used LTL on this. Pete Eisen.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. But I don't think this is what we're asking them for. We're just saying this group, the planning commission, read through the document, give us your feedback, and that's it. We're not saying, engage.
Basically, this is what the board thinks is great.
Yeah.
Do you see anything wrong with it? If you do, tell us. Otherwise, we're going to vote on it next month, right?
Right. I think that's the plan here.
Okay, that I could go for, not the last process.
I think the appropriate action, once the language is finalized, would be to authorize advertisement of the ordinance for enactment. So we would have a month lag time on that once the board finalizes the language. So if you send it back to the planning commission at the next meeting, the decision would be to authorize me to draft a public notice to enact the ordinance.
Right. And that'll be a good finalized point, right?
Okay.
So, okay.
Okay.
So, John, do you want to?
Any further discussion?
No.
All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, nay.
Nay.
Okay, motion carries 4-1.
All right.
Now, Mary, am I on the traffic calming? Or
Yes, please. No, you are.
Okay, so
Thank
I
you.
would like to, or I guess, I don't know who, we would like to discuss the draft traffic calming policy and supporting project ranking table. I make a motion to implement resolution number 2021-13 to approve and adopt the policy for traffic calming. Seconded by
I'll second that, Nancy.
Donna. Discussion.
So I don't really have anything to add because there are some questions that I had just in as far as some specifics, but I don't think there's the folks there's anyone on the call who can answer the questions that I had. But in general, I like this plan because it gives us, a framework for discussion, right? We're not going by, it's very important to take residents' opinions and considerations into and try to address them. But there's also times where we have to have a procedure and kind of have an orderly fashion on how we organize things. It's particularly something as important as our roads. Because what we might consider a minor improvement or a minor change might have a pretty profound impact on the township beyond what we understand. So having something very thoughtful and laid out, and that's how we make those decisions is important. So I think this resolution does a lot to address that. So.
I agree with you, Dave. I think this is step one towards dealing with any of the issues we have on our roads, which, as we all know, speeding's an issue everywhere on every road. But first, we have to have a policy. What do we do when there's a problem? And I think this is a step to do that.
Or even more than that, how do we identify the problem? So, and bringing the public in to make that point. So,
well, exactly, Donna. First, the public has to contact us and say, hey, we have a problem on this road. And then we start the discussion. But we say, all right, here's our policy, and let's work on your problem and come to a decision. Yeah.
I think it's a really good policy. And, I really appreciate Donna took a lot of time to edit it, and the edits made a lot of sense. They weren't major, but they just cleaned it up. And it's really what I like best about it is that it engages the community. They do the legwork, and then they look at the complexity of what they're dealing with, because we all want our roads to be safe, but it really gets much more complex than I ever would have thought to make a change that seems sensible, and then may not be, or may have, so many unexpected consequences to other members of the community. So I really think it's a good policy.
Any other comments or discussion on this?
Okay, so all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay. Motion carries 5-0.
All right.
Congratulations. It was big. Good
Yeah.
job.
Good thing.
Dave, I have it next on the agenda, hybrid meeting. I know we've talked about this before. I know you attended the demonstration. Could you kind of just update everybody where we stand on that?
Yeah, this is going to be a real quick one. So we eventually have to go back to some sort of hybrid meeting format. What this will mean is there'll be somebody in the township office that is either some of us at the board or all of us, depending, will be in the meeting room, and then people can also join in, board members can join in from home. That's the hybrid model, right? Some people are live and some people are at home. The reason for that is legally townships are required to have some form of free access to township meetings. And so that's important. We need to do that. We should be doing that. And right now, because of all these COVID restrictions and whatnot, it becomes difficult. To help facilitate that, we engaged a firm to upgrade our meeting room. That will include things like microphones and cameras to kind of modernize that meeting space so that we can hold a meeting there. So we've contracted this firm, and right now, like many industries, they're attempting to get all of the equipment together on order. There's logistical issues, there's microchip issues, so things aren't progressing as fast as we'd like. So the current time frame to have the microphones and cameras in, looking through the recent emails, is the next couple. It'll take another 2 months or so, end of October, November, when we'll start to see this equipment start to come in and get delivered and installed. The process, real briefly, is we're going to have remote microphones that are movable around the room. So if a resident would like to speak, they can take a microphone and speak, or it'll be in front of us. And then we'll have a camera, 1 or 2 cameras that's showing the entire meeting space. And once it's up and running, it's going to be pretty turnkey and easy to upgrade, easy to change as we need. So so far it all looks pretty good. So that's really the update. I don't really think I have too much more on that. I don't know, Mark. My question today was, is there a timeline when we must start doing hybrid, or are we still kind of in that gray area?
I think we're in the gray area still. I mean, and there may be some disagreement, and as you guys were aware, the PSATS magazine did indicate that the board needed to have a physical meeting. There's nothing in the law that requires it, and hence we're having. I guess I wouldn't call it a hybrid meeting, but this is a full virtual meeting, and we continue to do that. I would suggest that, and you are making advancements towards having what would be termed to have the hybrid meeting. Your facilities don't really allow too many members of the public to participate safely, given the size of the meeting room. So I would suggest that you move forward with it, with your plans, to ultimately have a hybrid meeting.
Dave, is there a significant cost that, I apologize, I couldn't make last meeting, but do we need to agree to the cost, or is it really minor?
So I think we agreed to the cost at the last meeting. We
We
voted.
did.
To approve
We
it.
did, Dave.
It is pretty significant. It's not cheap to do this. But one of the things that we've identified is we have this money, this COVID relief fund money that will pay for it. So we have a significant amount of cash available to us now to make some of these kinds of upgrades. And so while it may be expensive, it'll be mitigated by this relief fund.
And too, Nancy, it's required by law now. The governor said we have to do it, so we have to
Right.
proceed down this road.
Okay.
Yeah, and in the end, it'll be good for everyone, but it's going to be, well, because of the supply chain issues, it'll take a little time to work out, but we're working on it. And it seems to me to be an awesome system. And I think all the residents will like it. The restrictions we have, as Mark said, our meeting room is small.
Yeah.
You can't get a lot of people in there and be socially distanced. You just can't.
Yeah.
So we're working on it.
Great.
So that's the update.
Thank you, Dave. All right, I guess next is good old Appleton Road.
3327 Appleton Road update.
Yeah, Mark, I guess you want to give it?
Yeah, the only update I have is the property owner did file a brief. I will provide that brief to the board. We can analyze it. We've got a period of time to respond to that brief. I think I explained this at the last meeting, and then there'll be an argument before the Court of Common Pleas, and the judge will have a period of time to ultimately issue a decision. And that's a review of the decision that the board took related to the demolition permit. So that's the update I have. I will share that brief with you, and we can certainly discuss it at a later time.
So Mark, anything in that brief that was eye-opening or like unusual or?
Nothing eye-opening or unusual. No, was what we expected. They initially filed an appeal. The appeal laid out, the grounds, which were fairly standard, and the brief just expounded on the arguments that they made in the appeal. So that's the only update I have for 3327 Appleton.
Okay.
Lexington Point, Mark.
Any expectation that this will be resolved this year?
We hope so, John. But if it's not resolved this year, then it should be shortly thereafter. Like I said, we'll probably have our brief filed sometime in October, and then we may have an argument in November, depending on when that's scheduled. And then the judge, this judge we've seen this judge make fairly quick decisions within a month or two. So it's definitely possible, John. Sometimes judges take 6 months to make decisions, but
when you say argument, that means that's a presentation in the Court of Common Pleas in Westchester.
Yeah, it's an oral argument. There's no evidence. It's just simply an opportunity to make the judge aware of the issues in the case, argue those issues, the facts, and try to persuade the judge to your side. So that goes on in all administrative appeals before the Court of Common Pleas.
Okay. All right.
Are you able to show pictures, or is it just verbal?
I mean, it's possible to show pictures. I've done it before where I brought in, as long as it's in the record, that's a possibility. Yeah, it is a presentation. It's not a presentation of evidence. It's just a review of the record and an argument, so to speak, to the judge.
I mean, would that be helpful? Because we have a pretty good timeline of photos of this building going from, a beautiful old home to what it is now. So if the argument is demo by neglect, I think we have really good visual documentation of that.
Yeah, Dave, that's where I was going. It's not so much the way it looks now, but the fact that when he got this.
Yeah.
A reasonable building, and that over a period of time, it became this.
Mm-hmm.
Why he owned it. It was more that, I don't know if you can do that, but that to me is a more powerful message than him coming in and saying, look, it looks like this, now it's horrible, let me tear it down, versus like, if that's the way it showed up. But, you know, I don't
Right.
know.
Sure, we can certainly try to identify some evidence in the record that was presented to the board earlier this year and analyze that, and certainly make the judge. I mean, it's a fairly substantial record, so the judge and his clerk are going to have to review it. And what we do during oral argument is just try to point out specific things that we want the judge to address his attention to.
Okay.
Right, that's would be the timeline of how it just disintegrated or degraded over time under his ownership. Okay.
All right. So
Mark, can we impose upon you to go right into Lexington Point and give us an update?
Sure. Lexington Point, we are at a point where the applicant is getting closer. The permit's been issued by the DEP. John Auerbach and Stan Corbett and I had a conference call to review the issues. We continue to wait for the finalization of the plans for the wastewater treatment, the implementation of the agreement, which includes the financial security. They have provided a draft of what's called a bond, which would secure the construction of that facility that they're proposing to construct, that they actually have a permit to construct, as well as LTL's review of any issues related to the previous approval of the plan, and whether or not the financial security, which was put in place, I'm going to want to say 20 years ago, maybe not quite 20 years ago, maybe 15 years ago, is still an accurate number for that financial security that the township still holds. Lexington Point had been asking for a meeting. We reached out to them to ask them why. I did speak with their counsel. I don't think there's any action for them to take at this point other than to finalize the review of the plans and get these agreements in place. So we'll continue to work on that. I don't think at this point, John, certainly if you want to add something, I don't think there's any work.
I add something to it, so go ahead.
No, I don't think there's any work that needs to be done.
I don't think so, but I think the board needs to understand some overriding issues that really need to be resolved. There's a whole series of issues that Mark alluded to, but the fundamental issue is that we negotiated a developer's agreement related to the wastewater treatment plant back last year, and Keystone has not signed the agreement yet. And they continue to ask for concessions and favors and things like that. And I think that's the crux of the issue. Certainly, I'll get involved in these details that Mark alluded to, but I think we need to focus on getting him to come to agreement and sign the agreement that we negotiated last year. The fact that he's reluctant to do it indicates to me that he may want to renegotiate it at a later date. So I think we need to bring that to the surface pretty soon. So I think that's the overriding direction here.
So John, do you think we can put things on hold until they sign that?
I think he's asking for something right now, which isn't critical, but we could use that to bring him closer to signing the agreement. What he's asking for right now is he wants to put the drip tubing in the ground in the fall while the weather is accommodating. Stan believes that it's not necessary to do that now because putting that drip tubing in there really isn't needed in the process for at least a year, because you'd have to build a wastewater treatment plant first and then begin to commission it with water runs and things. And at that point, you would need the disposal field available. So we're not sure why he wants to do this earlier, but it is a request. But I think we really need to talk about this agreement and find out why he doesn't want to sign it.
Hey, John.
Good.
Let me finish this thing here. You've got a number of issues out there that LTL needs to do, and we delayed talking to LTL because we had some things we needed to get off the table this evening. But LTL needs to, let me just say one other thing right at the beginning of the meeting, that ACOM and our engineer and Department of Environmental Protection are entirely satisfied with the technical part of the project. There are no technical issues out there. I think we're now in the execution phase. LTL needs to review some things, grading permit and the building permit is one item. The other item they need to is establish the current cost, because the current cost provides a basis for an escrow or bond. So I think that's some work we need to get LTL started on. We talked about talking to them on Monday, but we had some issue that was resolved this evening. It would prevent us from doing that, but now I think we can contact LTL and get them to engage this issue related to the grading permit, the building permit, and most importantly, the current cost of the project. I think that is the crux of it, is those issues need to be resolved by LTL. And I think we need to get this developers agreement on the discussion and get this thing signed before we proceed, because we're into the execution phase of this project. So, and I've been involved in complex projects like this over the years, and things will continue to come up. They'll need this, that, or you want to do this out of sequence. So there'll be continuing requests to do things maybe out of sequence, and that might be okay. But the fact that we don't have the basic agreement in place is an issue for me and maybe for the board. So there's a lot of technical issues we could talk about, but I think I've laid it out, and I think Mark's laid it out correctly. So that's the report back from
I agree with that.
Hey,
Yep.
John. John, I don't know if can you guys hear me? This is
I
Jeff
can hear
Rutt.
you and I can see you well. No problem.
Okay, yeah, Jeff Rutt, Lexington went. I did sign the agreement. I'm not sure if there's some miscommunication there. We have if there's an agreement that we haven't signed yet, we'd be glad to sign it. Mark, do you know which agreement hasn't been signed?
Well, we need to have, we need to have, and you are aware that there are certain reviews that still need to come in, plans that need to be finalized. So, it's the agreement is what it is, but we need to have exhibits that go along with that agreement. We need to have a finalized agreement. I'm not suggesting that that you guys are dragging your feet. I mean, you are moving the process forward, but we understood that you wanted to try to have drip tubing, and that you did not say that directly, but that was told to me by your attorney,
Yes.
And we had discussed that, and we don't understand why that would be necessary at this point.
So,
and I think you're hearing Mr. Auerbach say is that we want to have all of the other documents finalized, including LTL's review of the subdivision, before you guys move forward with installing drip tubing in the fields out there.
okay, yeah, we have no problem producing any exhibits. I know we finally got the DEP permit back in July, and we've been trying to get approvals to get started, because the reason we would like to get the tubing in, John, this fall is because once you put the tubing in, we want to reseed over that, so that if there is, because there's usually some, and I don't know if you've been out to to look at the drain field, but they did a really nice job seeding it, and the grass looks really good. When they put the tubing in, they'll have to overseed that, and we want to get a good seed of grass growing where we put the tubing in. And this would be a good time of the year to do that. We do have as you said, as you alluded to, Mark, we do have the form of the bond in place, and we're prepared to fund the bond. We're if there's something that you're waiting on from us, I would love to know. That the only thing that I knew that we were waiting on at this point was, as you alluded to, is for LTL to go out and re-inspect the work that was done years ago to make sure that there's enough security in place, which we believe there is. There was, because most of the work was done. But obviously that's going to be up to you or to LTL, your engineer. We would be glad to put whatever financial security in place. If you're concerned about us putting additional tubing in, that in some way jeopardizes the township. We don't believe it does. It's just part of the improvements. We're trying to do everything we can to get off of Pump and Haul. We're trying to get this thing, and putting this tubing in will take us one step closer to getting off of Pump and Haul. And I feel like it's been hard to communicate, and maybe that's on us. I apologize if we haven't produced something that we should have been producing, because I've been pushing this hard from an owner standpoint to try to get this community off of Pump and Haul. It's been very painful for a lot of years. And we finally got our permit from DEP. I thought we had signed all the agreements with the township, but Mark, if there's something that's not signed, if you could send it to me tomorrow, I'll sign it. There's nothing that I'm holding back on signing.
Well, I think it's the engineering issues that need to be finalized.
So which, and again, I apologize for not knowing, but I didn't know there was any. The only thing I knew was that LTL had to evaluate the amount of the security, not on the new plant, but on the improvements that had been put in the past. That's the only thing I knew that was being waited on.
Right, on the existing subdivision.
Yes.
And Jeff, I'm happy to have, we have had conference calls and Zoom meetings with the folks at Keystone over a long period of time. And I'm happy to have one of those.
Okay.
We were trying to deal with some administrative issues, and we wanted to discuss this on the side before we had a conference call with you. So I will reach out to your attorney and we will schedule something so that you understand where we are.
Okay.
Okay, Jeff?
No problem. No problem. I'll wait for your call if you want to reach out to Greg tomorrow, and we'll make ourselves available at any time.
I think for the township standpoint, we need to alert LTL probably tomorrow that we need them to get these things moving, this grading and building permit, and then validate or establish the current costs. Those are the two major items. So I think we just delayed that because we had some personnel issues in the township that
I see.
We wanted to get over that tonight, which we did.
Okay.
So I think tomorrow I'll make arrangements to talk to LTL and get this process moving.
Okay, I appreciate that. Thank you for your time, and I'll look forward to hearing from your team.
Well, I think Mark's going to schedule a Zoom meeting to talk about the drip tubing.
Yeah.
And then we'll find out where LTL's is with these items and report back probably in that meeting.
Okay. Thank you very much. Appreciate
Thanks,
your
Jeff.
time. I'll have a good evening.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. There's two items, I believe, that are left on our agenda. I know this agenda is we flipped it around a bit. One is the preliminary budget review. We haven't been able to get a hold of the preliminary budget review if it was done. So I think since it's only September, I think the feeling is we'd like to push this discussion till October. And it will give us from now till October to get the budget. If we don't find it, we'll do whatever we have to do to get it together. And then we have something on paper that we can talk about.
Yeah, Mayor, I think the intent was, and I still think we can push it, is for us as a board to think about any items that we need to consider for the budget. And I'm just going to pick this out as an example. I don't think the money's so exorbitant that we have to worry about it. But the Mason-Dixon line project, that's something that we need to include in next Treasurer's budget, the increased cost to the fire company. That's
Fire
something.
company. Yeah.
Yeah, it's that kind of stuff, and it's probably bigger than that. It's probably, is there something that we want to do that we need to just make sure that the bookkeeper was aware of it? So as they proposed the budget, there was money allocated in some kind of a fund that we know that it's there. So
right.
Donna, those issues are really important, but I think you also need to update the budget with the expected income for next year. You need to figure out what you're going to put into salaries for next year. We also have some federal money that's come into the township, and probably $240,000. So you probably need to establish a specific account or at least a tab in the worksheet to bring that income in so that you can document the income coming into the budget and how you're going to spend some of it out.
Well, John, bottom line is we're not ready tonight to have that discussion.
I know.
So if everybody's in agreement, between now and the October meeting, all these things you're talking about, we need to,
think about it.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to outline the tasks and what you might have to do.
Right.
You also have to estimate what you're going to put into your infrastructure program next year.
Right.
And at that point, you're going to see how much money you have to spend next year.
Right.
In every category. And that's the purpose of the budget.
Right.
It's a spending plan that you use to monitor your activities over the course of the year, and your monthly treasury reports tell you how you're complying with that budget and provide a cost control mechanism so you can make adjustments if things get out of line. But the budget is a spending plan. It's a really important document. Mm-hmm. And I only touched on a few issues. Donna mentioned a few, but there's a whole number of issues that need to be evaluated and put into that budget.
But is the board fine with this is going on the October Board of Supervisor meeting as 2022 preliminary budget review? And between now and then, we'll work things out.
I think that's the only thing you can do.
Okay.
I just was putting out a few points that need to be addressed. I know I was in the office the other day and Melissa did find some notes about the budget, some preliminary notes. So we didn't study those, but she did find them. So
we'll see what she digs up.
Yeah, we have the preliminary documents. We just need to pull it all together and get into it before we can discuss it. So so I'm okay with
that'll be October. The only other thing I can see that was on the agenda is the general code review. And I believe, Mark, you were reviewing some items and the LTL was reviewing others. And I believe you're all finished.
I am, yeah. I had quite a few items that I had gone through and provided comments to general code. I don't know the status of what general code's going to do with those comments, if they're just going to update the township ordinances. But we went, there was several hours of review of issues that they had raised. I think the township was having this review done to its codes by general code.
So I would think somewhere along the line, somebody would report back to the board, because I think it's good that, Mark, that you did that and that the PC's done that. But when does the board get to see what you've done and agree that this is where we want to go or not? It might be very simple, but I really don't know what's been done.
Well, we'll have to look into that as to where those issues lie, to be honest with you, Donna.
Okay.
Right. So yeah, I mean, I think I saw this on the agenda, and there was really nothing in the book to support it. And I'm thinking, okay, maybe the plan was to discuss the process, because unless I missed an email, and it would have been a pretty big email, I don't know what's been done. I know there's been work going on, but I think there should be some report that says, okay, this is what we're changing, this is what we're proposing to change, and this is why we're changing it, and then the board would get to agree. or disagree?
There is a report, Donna, and that report posed a whole host of questions concerning really technical issues concerning the ordinance. I think that's what General Code does. They review all of the issues related to all of the ordinance code and try to pick out, technicalities that may or may not be need to be, modified. And some of them they asked for my opinion, and I went through and provided my opinion, and then there's a little box to check. So we'll have to find that and get that to you. At the end of that process, Don, I do believe the township will have to take some type of action to amend the code. So that is in process right now. The review that I have done completed.
What I would be looking for, Mark, and I don't know if it exists, is a table. And the first column would be, this is what was proposed to be changed. The second column would be, your comments or the planning commission's comments or whoever's comments they were. And then the third column would be a recommendation. And then we could take one at a time and agree, is this something we want to do, or isn't this, or don't we want to do it? So I'm looking for like a systematic presentation of what exactly has been going on, because this has been going on for over a year, I believe, this process.
Yeah, no, there's a document just like you talked about, boxes to check. That's what I had gone through with the township manager, and I'm sure that's somewhere in the system.
Well, on the plus side, it's been a giant project, and that's terrific if, it's getting to us where we can review it and wrap this up. Because Donna's right, it's probably been a year and a half, and it's important stuff to do. So we're getting there. And thanks, Mark. I'm sure that wasn't easy. And same with PC. They've taken it step by step.
Okay.
All right. Okay, so we know where we stand on that. I don't see anything else on the agenda that we need to discuss. Does anyone else?
No, I think I don't.
You think we're done, Dave?
Yeah, I think we're good.
We can move to public comment.
Yeah.
All right. Anyone out there in the public, if you'd like to make a comment about whatever, now is your time.
Yeah, this Paul Overton. I'd like to make a comment that a couple of weeks ago, our neighbors at Gourmet Mushroom have dumped some wastewater into the Indian Run stream, and I reported it to the DEP. But unfortunately, it was in the evening, and they didn't want to come out in the night. Their night emergency responder was in Norristown, and by the time he got here, it would be over and dark. So he came out the following morning, but the water was no longer being released in the morning, so he didn't see anything, and he inspected their facility. But I had about 4 neighbors come out and see it, so we had witnesses to see the dark water and the floating foam. I didn't see any dead fish this time. Usually there's dead fish, but not this time. So, at least it's been reported to the DEP, but it does happen less now that they built that big tank out there. Now it's only about maybe every 2 or 3 months they dump, but it used to be maybe twice a month. So they are improving, but just to let you know, it is happening in case you get a report from the DEP about something that happened in your township.
Thanks, Paul.
Yep.
Thank you. All right. Any other public comments about anything? All right. Well, hearing nothing, we can go to adjournment. This meeting is adjourned at 9:13. Thank you, everyone. Appreciate it.
Thank
All right.
you.
Thank you, everybody.